Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. Another episode of MMA After Dark, UFC Mexico City post-fight show here on MMA After Dark. We're going to get into all the action on the main card, the results, highlights from the card, a couple highlights from the prelims, and of course we're going to give out our Pal Right in the Kisser award tonight. I've already tweeted it out on the official MMA After Dark X account. If you haven't followed, please follow, like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. This is the official MMA After Dark UFC Mexico post-fight show. Thanks for joining me. Alright guys, so let's get into it. We had a lot of action tonight. Great card. I was a little unsure about this card when it first got announced. There were some big names, some not so big names. It's definitely more of a hardcore fan card. The names on there don't necessarily jump out at you unless you're a hardcore fan. But nevertheless, the action really delivered tonight. We're going to start with the main event. Went 5 rounds, went toe-to-toe, all 5 rounds. Brandon Moreno, Steve Erceg. It was a good fight. Every round very close and competitive. Although it was pretty clear, even going into that 5th round, even though I had kind of scored it 2-2. I think at the time I had Brandon Moreno. First round, 4th round, and then upon first watch, I haven't gone back and rewatched it yet, I gave Erceg the 2nd and the 3rd rounds. I thought that was where he kind of did his best work, and then of course, in the 5th round, pretty clear round for Moreno at that point. But really the story of this fight was Moreno just clearly had the bigger moments. He was landing those hooks, he was looking sharp, he was looking crisp, he was defensively sound. While Erceg was landing, you never really felt like Moreno was in any kind of trouble, right? You kind of felt like he was in control. You kind of felt like he had Erceg, Moreno had Erceg fighting his fight, right, on his terms. And while Erceg has now proven to be a legitimate contender in the flyweight division, having gone now, and I tweeted this out right after the fight was over, having now gone 10 rounds with the current flyweight champ and now the former 2-time flyweight champion, 10 rounds of competitive action, he's deserving of respect. Steve Erceg was a guy that kind of came out of nowhere, and I remember when the Pantoja fight was announced between them two, there was a lot of people like, who is this guy? Who is this Steve Erceg guy, right? I mean, he did have that dynamic finish over Matt Schnell, but aside from that, he was kind of a guy that was really flying under the radar. Kind of a quirky guy. He's not some big personality. Not great on the mic. Just kind of, just kind of business as usual kind of guy. But nevertheless, has proven that he can go toe-to-toe with the best of them. But as we all know, there is levels to this game, and he just does not quite seem to be on that same level as the champion Pantoja, and now having fought Brandon Moreno. He just seems to be just not quite on that championship caliber level yet. Ironically, having though gone 10 rounds total with both of them, right? But you just kind of feel like he just has that missing X factor. Like when you're watching Steve Erceg, you kind of question like, okay, you see that he's good everywhere. He has crisp boxing. He's pretty defensively sound. He moves well. Got pretty good head movement. Can wrestle when need be, and wrestling enough to kind of at least give the other fighters, the opponents, that look to keep his boxing effective. But you kind of sit back and wonder, like, does he have anything that he's really good at, excellent at, right? Now, he still has time to develop his game, but you just kind of feel like he's that missing piece. A lot of people were tweeting out after the fight that he's the flyweight Corey Sandhagen. A good fighter, a well-rounded fighter, a guy that can do a little bit of everything, but just kind of seems to be missing that extra piece that is going to set him above the other fighters in his division. So where does he go from here? Some people were saying, give him Amir Albazi. I don't hate that. Both coming off losses now. Moreno handedly beat Amir Albazi. I wouldn't mind seeing an Urseg Amir Albazi fight. I think that might be appropriate for him. And you also have to kind of wonder, I don't know a ton about his team. I see that his dad seems to be his head coach and trainer. And sometimes I feel the same way about that as I do with having fighters, significant others being their head coach and trainer. Sometimes you need to bring in an outside guy that doesn't have those ties emotionally to push them that extra step, that extra mile. And on the flip side, you could say, well, who's going to push them more than the guy's own father? And I'm not taking away anything from Steve Urseg's dad's, credentials. Clearly he's gotten him to this point, right? But you also wonder if Steve Urseg is going to take that next step and continue to develop his game. Does he go into some different gyms, get some different looks, or maybe, join a big gym to further develop his game? Because I didn't really see much different from him in his previous fights. He just seems to be, currently, is what he is. He's a crisp boxer. As I mentioned, he moves well. He's defensively sound. He can wrestle if need be. But I don't see him adding any wrinkles to his game. I don't see him attempting to develop anything. And, in this fight, there were some other things that I felt that he could have done in the areas he excelled to maybe make those rounds a little tighter. I was wondering in this fight, where's the clinch work? Where's the elbows and the dirty boxing in the clinch? I remember in particular when he fought Pantoja, he was landing effectively some of those shots in the clinch, and I just didn't see that in this fight against Moreno. Now on the flip side, Moreno just seems to be sharp. Was this his best performance? No, it wasn't. But he got the win, now coming off back-to-back wins, having just beaten Amir Albazi and now beating Urseg. And so I tweeted this out. He definitely keeps his name alive in that title contender mix with Brandon Royval, with Manel Kopp, and of course we know that Kai Kara-France is getting that next title shot. But he's right there in that mix now with the 2 wins in a division where really anything could happen. But Moreno definitely had the big moments. And I do think while it was maybe a little bit generous of me to have it 2-2 going in to the 5th round, a lot of that has to do with, in these close fights, these 5-round fights where also, there wasn't a lot of action on the ground. This was primarily a standing affair. So we have 5 rounds of mostly boxing and it's a striking affair. And when we have that, and when guys are just kind of going toe to toe, and even though Moreno was landing the bigger shots and had the bigger moments, we've seen in the past when fights like this go into the 5th round and each round is close, it's a lot of times it almost seems by default like these judges have it 2-2 somehow going in. So a part of it was based on what I'm watching, and the other half of it was kind of like, it just seemed that way. It just seemed to be heading to a split decision somehow, some way. Even though I saw that a lot of journalists, fight pages had Moreno up 3-1 going in to the 5th, which you could totally give him that. And I was kind of leaning that way, but it just felt like whoever was gonna win that last round and really put the stamp on that fight was gonna end up taking it home. Now ultimately the judges had it 49-46 across the board, so Moreno could have lost that round and still gotten the W. I really didn't look at the scorecard, so I'm not sure how exactly the judges scored it round by round, which rounds they gave who to. So I'll definitely be taking a look at that later. But this was a good win for Moreno. Urseg, even though he's coming off that loss against Kai Kara-France, that knockout, you still had to feel like, if you're Urseg, hey, I went 5 rounds with the champ, razor close fight. I hit a speed bump against Kai Kara France, but here we go. I'm right back in it now with the former 2-time champ, and I got a shot to do this. And he did fight with some confidence, but he really didn't dictate the terms of this fight. He was fighting Moreno's fight, and whatever he threw when he did land, it seemed like Moreno was right there back in his face, getting it back, right? Like Urseg might land a 2-punch combination, and then boom, Moreno's right back him, 2-punch combination followed by a leg kick, right? And just blitzing him, just making sure like, oh no, you got that, no, I'm gonna get that one back, and just match him score for score, and just keep on making him, fight his fight. So great win for Moreno. He did say that, with the kind of the parody and the history of him and Pantoja, that it kind of maybe might give him a leg up on things. We'll see. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that fight again? I mean, it was the first fight between him and Pantoja. Great fight. I mean, that fight was just fantastic. I mean, those rounds, razor close. I remember when I watched that fight the first time, I was at a buddy of mine's house, and I was watching it. He was a big Moreno fan, and I was, every round, I looked at him like, dude, like, I don't know how to score that. I mean, every round you could have just flip-flopped. You could have given it to Moreno, you could have given it to Pantoja, right? I mean, it was razor close. Who wouldn't love to see that fight again, right? And continue with those classic flyweight fights, him and Pantoja. And then, of course, we know about all those great fights he had with Davis and Figueiredo. I mean, fights we just loved, right? So, great win for Moreno. He kind of keeps himself alive in that title mix. If he doesn't get the next title shot after Kai Kara France, I would love to see him fight Manel Kape. Who wouldn't love to see that fight? I mean, Manel Kape surging right now. I mean, he was just styling on Bruno Silva, right? I mean, he was just doing whatever he wanted. He was just styling on him in his flow state, showboating. Now, we book him against Moreno. I mean, those two guys are going to most likely keep it on the feet the whole time. Both of them are fast strikers, slick strikers, defensively sound. Man, I would just love to see that fight. I mean, that you could put that on a pay-per-view. Maybe not as the main event of a pay-per-view, but maybe a co-main or main event of a fight night. Hopefully not at the Apex. We don't want to see those guys fight at the Apex unless, that's our last resort. But I would love to see that fight. I would love to see a Manel Kape and Brandon Moreno in a title eliminator fight if either one of those guys don't get it, their shot. But I mean, at some point, all these contenders, you got to match them against one another, right? Because there's too many now to where they're all just going to keep sitting and waiting, right? I mean, Kai Kara France is going to get that title shot, but then, we have Brandon Royval, we have Brandon Moreno, we have a surging Manel Kape, right? So we have these guys that, if the circumstances were a little bit different, could maybe hang back and wait. Oh, well, what Kai Kara France is done, I'll get that winner, right? But who's that? I mean, you got Royval's got a case for that. Manel Kape's got a case for that now. And now with the 2 back-to-back wins, Brandon Moreno's got a case for that too. So why not match Manel Kape and Brandon Moreno in that title eliminator? I'm all for it. And, hopefully you guys are too. And then, like I said, I think we give Urseg Amir Albazi and see if maybe we can get him back on track with a winnable fight for him. Not an easy fight by any means. I mean, Amir Albazi, he's a little bit of a streaky fighter, but he's a challenge for anybody. I mean, let's be clear. So, great main event. It was definitely entertaining. The home countryman won. Great way to cap off the night at UFC Mexico. So moving on, we had the co-main event, which was over before it started, and there was some other fights like that as well on the main card that we'll get to. But we had Manuel Torres against Drew Dober, And oh my gosh, you know, you got to feel for Drew Dober. I mean, he's a company guy. He's always down for a scrap. He's a guy that never quits, never throws in the towel, never quits on himself. He's a guy that'll take damage and keep coming. But Manuel Torres was just too fast, too strong, too slick for him. He landed that nasty combo that sat him down. I believe it was a combo, but then of course what stands out in my mind the most is just that barrage of hammer fists that followed while Drew Dober was attempting somewhat of a single leg, I guess, but really just holding on for dear life on his ankle. And you just see Manuel Torres just pounding him with hammer fists until I think it was Mike Beltran finally stopped the fight. I mean, those were, I didn't count, but I mean, at least it looked like 10, if not more, hammer fists that all landed clean as Dober was just in a turtle shell position, holding on for dear life to that ankle. A little bit, took some excessive damage, some unnecessary damage, you know. But in Drew Dober's defense, it did still look like he was holding on, but I kept screaming at the TV, saying, dude, you got to move, you got to like shift or attempt to stand up or something, or Beltran's going to stop this fight. And, you know, and he did. But you know, you got to feel for Drew Dober. Now, I think this, I believe his last fight, and forgive me if I'm incorrect on this, but I think it was that Gene Silva fight where Gene Silva went up to lightweight short notice and it didn't knock out Drew Dober, but he beat him up pretty bad, and ultimately I think it was a doctor stoppage over that cut that he sustained from Gene Silva. So, you know, it's back to the drawing board for Drew Dober. I think he called himself, what did he call himself earlier this week? Like Diet Justin Gaethje, you know, and that's kind of funny, kind of true. But the speed discrepancy in this fight was just, there was just such a contrast in that between these two fighters. And Drew Dober's always capable of landing something big. A good example of that's the Bobby Green fight, where Bobby Green, same thing. I mean, it doesn't quite have the power of Torres, but he was landing that jab, sticking and moving, popping him really good. I think it maybe even opened him up a cut or two on Dober, but caught him, finished him. So he's always has that X factor, right? But Manuel Torres is just too fast, too slick, too strong for Drew Dober. So you know, got the knockout finish. Drew Dober seemed to be confused when the fight was over. He got up and he was kind of, okay, let's go. And then it looked like Manuel Torres was a little confused, like he was just, you know, wanted to keep going, like he knew he got knocked out, but like, oh, this guy, what does he want more? And then I think somebody, one of the officials or staff members was like, oh, no, you know, we're good, right? And then, but Drew Dober was very like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, I'm good. So I'm sure at one point he probably went out and then came back, you know. I mean, and we've seen that before, right? Where guys will take a huge shot, boom, get knocked out, and then get knocked back into consciousness by another shot, right? So who knows, that might have happened multiple times when he was down on the ground there. You know, a great win for Manuel Torres. Drew Dober's a big name. He's a fan favorite. Did get the performance of the night bonus, deservingly so. It's interesting though. I mean, this fight closed at I think. Well, actually, forgive me. I don't know if it closed at this, but UFC had Manuel Torres only as a slight favorite at minus 122 to Drew Dober's plus 102 underdog. So just a slight underdog, but man, I mean, this when this fight started, I mean, and as quickly as it was over, you could tell quickly that, man, the speed was going to be a problem. Because Drew Dober's never been known for his speed. He's known as a tough guy that, you know, will take his licks and, you know, keep grinding and find a way to land that big shot and eke out a win. But Manuel Torres just proved to be too much for him tonight. So congratulations to another home countryman getting that victory over Drew Dober. I would not mind seeing a rematch now between Drew Dober and Bobby King Green. The first one was fun, and you know, Drew Dober was able to get the win. But you know, now they're both kind of on these losing streaks. Both out of the top 15, clearly. I think at one point Drew Dober did crack into the top 15. I think he might have cracked into actual number 15 at one point, I think. And Bobby Green did as well, but couldn't break into that top 10, I don't think, at any point. So they're both now kind of on similar trajectories. They're both getting a little bit there up in age. I'd be all for that. I mean, these are two guys that are fan favorites. Book that fight. Manuel Torres, he moves on. I think that he proved that he is now deserving of another big name, if not a ranked opponent, definitely another big name, but a guy that's going to challenge him accordingly. Because, I mean, you never want to say Drew Dober's a layup for anybody, but, I mean, he was outmatched in this, unfortunately. So, congratulations to Manuel Torres with the performance of the night bonus. Drew Dober will be back. We know this, right? I mean, he's the guy's mentally tough, just as mentally tough as he is physically tough. So he'll be back. We'll see him back in action soon. Fan favorite, Drew Dober. All right, and then moving on, another fight that seemed to be over before it started, the Edgar Chairez and the CJ Vergara fight. In some of the, and I'm not going to name drop anybody, but in some of these YouTube channels I watch, some of these fight channels, there was a lot made of some of these matchups being possible layups for the Mexican fighters. They're in Mexico City. It's we want to make the home crowd happy. We want their home countrymen to put on good performances and win, and get the big finishes. And I wasn't a huge fan of this matchup. CJ Vergara will fight anybody. We know this. We know the guy's tough as can be, and all due respect to him. But again, similar to the Torres-Dober fight, he just didn't have a lot for him. He didn't. Chairez landed some strikes early and ended up finishing him with the choke. And while he readjusted, I remember initially when he had the choke in, it didn't seem like it was quite under the chin, and then he kind of cinched it up a little bit more. But Vergara didn't really put up much of a fight. But that's also, a testament to Chairez, because, that guy, he's been in some battles, some bangers, and he continues to show up. He's a guy that fights regularly and just will go out on his shield, and it was a great performance. How much I don't know how much stock you put into this victory, though. It's a good win. I'm happy as heck for him. Especially, and I'm not going to lie, it choked me up a little bit when he got on the mic. I thought initially he was just kind of overwhelmed, being there, Mexican crowd, fan favorite there, countrymen of the location of the event, but I thought that was what was overwhelming him. But then he gets on the mic and he's talking about this great, well, I don't want to say great, but this emotional experience that he had the last year or so when he had to have some sort of surgery I guess he couldn't afford, and he was telling the crowd about how his grandfather had to sell his truck to have money for the surgery. And apparently had lost him recently, and so he dedicated the fight to his grandfather. He said something to the effect of like, I know he's not here with me right now, but he's watching from the first row in heaven. Man, you got to feel for that. As someone that also lost my grandfather, semi-recently, who was just my best friend, it just got me kind of thinking about that as well. And so, huge moment for him. So honestly, even though I don't take a lot of stock into this victory against CJ Vergara, but I don't care. I'm so happy for Edgar Chairez. He wins in his home country. Fans going crazy for him. Huge moment for him. Just one of those moments he'll just never forget, right? So couldn't be happier for him, right? There's some times where certain moments aren't about, well, what's next for him, or what does this matchup mean, or what does this victory mean, or what were the strengths and weaknesses, right, and the X's and O's, and so how much stock do we take in him fighting this guy? this wasn't about any of that for Edgar Chairez. This was his moment. This was his moment. He delivered a great finish, and you can only fight who they put in front of you. And he handled his business, got the victory, was great on the mic. Definitely something I'll remember. So he's on to bigger and better things. Great victory for him, great moment for him. What more can you say? Congratulations to Edgar Chairez. And you got to feel a little bit for CJ Vergara. He just couldn't get anything going against him. But I'm sure he'll be back in action also. Edgar Chairez moves on to bigger and better things. Gets that first round submission choke against CJ Vergara. So congratulations again to Edgar Chairez. Great moment for him. Super happy for him. All right, we move on to the Raul Rosas Jr. and Vince Morales fight. Before we talk about Raul Rosas Jr., I want to talk about Vince Morales a little bit. At the closing odds had Raul Rosas, I think, as like a minus 550 favorite. I thought that was a little disrespectful to Vince Morales. Is Vince Morales ever going to be a champion? Probably not. All due respect to him, right? But he showed me something in the, I think it was the Isaiah Smith fight, because I tweeted this out. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull it up. I tweeted out the fight that he has now been, in back-to-back months, booked against kind of surging, hot, young prospects. And you almost kind of got the feeling that he was almost being used as almost kind of like a sacrificial lamb kind of deal. Because we had him against, I'm trying to find this tweet here. We had him against Isaiah Smith last month, and then I'm not going to mess with the tweet right now. Anyway, we had him against Isaiah Smith, who is a surging young contender, and many people thought that he was going to get out of there early, that Isaiah Smith was going to get him out there pretty early. But he, in fact, did not. He hung in there, and man, he gave him a tough fight. He did. He proved that he, yes, here we go. Forgive me, I'm just gonna repeat this tweet that I tweeted out after the fight. That Vince Morales has proved to be a tough out against back-to-back young prospects in Smith and Rosas Jr. But this is what I put: too much patience and an inability to dictate his game costs him. And I kept thinking, watching this fight, he approaches these fights as if he's fighting in Pride FC circa 1999, when they used to do these 10-minute rounds, 15-minute rounds, and he just has all day to work with. Like, he's just going to keep waiting, hanging back, and then his opportunity is going to come. And trusts in his ability to not get finished, which he does have a strong ability to not get finished. He's shown that in back-to-back fights, but he's waiting and he's waiting and he's waiting, and he gets taken down and he's getting controlled and he's waiting, and then at the end of the rounds he finds these moments. Okay, I'm gonna try to sink in this Darce choke, or that bow tie choke, I guess you call. He's got the choke and then the knee and the throat. I just don't know if you're gonna finish even a Raul Rosas Jr. with that. Right? And you're not going to finish him with under a minute left. I mean, he's just hanging back and hanging back and hanging back, and all the while losing the rounds, losing on points. And granted, he didn't take a lot of damage, but his inability to dictate his game and go first, to be first. I actually thought this was a winnable fight for him, because Raul Rosas Jr., while has shown fantastic wrestling, takedown ability, and toughness, he hasn't been a guy that's put a lot of heavy damage on guys. I mean, he's had his moments, but He's not been a guy that's been able to dictate huge ground and pound once he's taken down his opponents. And so I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for him, for Morales to go first. And to implement some of these choke attempts. I mean, if he sunk in that Darce a couple times and it was looking good, but again, you know, you keep waiting, you keep hanging back and just thinking that, okay, I'm going to have my moment, but when you don't, round's over, okay, and all of a sudden you're down 2 rounds, and I think I tweeted this out also, like Vince Morales needs either a finish or something just dynamic, because while the first round was close, I mean, the second round absolutely belonged to Rosas. And so he just cannot continue to keep doing this. He comes from a strong camp in Extreme Couture, John Wood in his corner. And there were people very dismissive of Vince Morales before this fight. But he showed me a lot in that Isaiah Smith fight. That he hung around, he took some big shots, and he had him in some trouble. And he had Rosas Jr. in some trouble too, but he just kept waiting and waiting and waiting and assuming, okay, my moment's going to come. And with more time on the clock, he might have been able to get a finish, but he just waited too long. And doesn't matter if it's just strictly control time. You get controlled for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and then, you know, you sink in a, you know, choke or a choke attempt the last 30 seconds, yeah, you're going to lose that round most of the time. And that's a dangerous way to go about your fights. I mean, you're going to, yes, you might pull out some victories here and there, but when you start fighting even these young tough contenders and prospects, I mean, even those guys, I mean, they're just, and Rosas, we know, has the wrestling background, and you know, I'm sure he studied the Vince Morales and knew that, you know, his strength is kind of more his submissions, not so much his striking. I mean, you didn't think he'd be ready for that? I mean, of course. I mean, and he fought off some of those dangerous choke attempts, and he had some. Morales had some in there pretty deep, but Rosas showed that he was ready for all that. Hey, look, like, I'm gonna do my thing, and even if you have your moments, you're not going to be able to finish me, right? And that being said, in that third round, that choke was in there pretty tight. And, you know, Rosas, you know, was giving the thumbs up, but then it looked like Morales sank it in a little bit deeper and you know, readjusted position. But again, his inability to implement his game earlier in the round cost him. If he had had a minute left, shoot, maybe even 30 seconds left, if he had tried to implement those chokes a little bit quicker against an opponent to where you can dictate your terms against a little bit. I mean, Rosas is still developing his game. He's still very young. He's still very susceptible to these things. But Morales was on the back foot a lot. He was just waiting and waiting and waiting and getting taken down in control time. I mean, that's what this victory came down to, takedowns and control time. And while ironically, it kind of seemed like Morales might have even had the bigger moments with the submissions, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Just the control time and the takedowns and some striking from Rosas. There's just too much. You cannot continue to wait around and just wait for your moments while, okay, I lost that round. Yeah, I had a moment at the end, but lost that round. Oh, I had a moment at the end, lost that round. So, you know, you got to feel for you know, Vince Morales. I do think he is better than, you know, the experts were giving him credit for. I didn't agree with those odds at all. I mean, Rosas Jr. is not some world beater right now. He's a good young prospect, but he's still got wrinkles to iron out of his game. He is not a finished product by any means. Still got time. He's also one of these guys that, you know, comes from a small camp. It seems. I mean, you know, he's kind of stuck with his hometown people, and you almost wonder too if he is going to make that next jump. And he still has so much time. I think he's 20. I don't even think he's 21 yet. I mean, he has so much room for growth, but so much time. But you do wonder at some point if he is going to develop into that next level star, if he is going to have to go get some different looks at some different gyms, or maybe even join a bigger gym. There aren't too many guys, I mean, I know there's more than this, but off the top of my head, I can really only think of one, being Max Holloway, that really doesn't come from a big gym, that just stuck with his hometown local guys, small team. But I mean, we're talking about Max Holloway, right? There's just not too many guys that can just stand on their talent alone and just continue to develop and develop and develop with these small local hometown guys. It can happen, absolutely, but you almost wonder if Rosas is going to develop into what he wants to be. He's made it very clear he has ambitions of being a champion one day, and he could very well get there. But you do kind of wonder if if he wants to make that next jump at some point. Does he maybe need to join a bigger gym? Does he maybe need to at least get some different looks at some different gyms where he'll get that special attention by world-class coaches? And I say that with all due respect to his current coaches, right? And to be clear, I don't know his current coaches' credentials, backgrounds, and that. I'm sure they know what they're doing. I mean, clearly they've prepared him well. They've prepared him well for the opponents he's had, right? But that next level of fighters that he's going to have to ultimately face, I mean, those guys are coming. You know, eventually he's gonna face guys, established guys, and again, I know that Vince Morales comes from Extreme Couture, but I mean, not quite what you would call one of their really world-class established fighters, right? But eventually, if he keeps winning these guys lower on the winning against these guys that are lower on the food chain, he is going to have to fight some of these guys that are well-established guys from, American Top Team, maybe some more established guys from Extreme Couture, some guys from Kill Cliff, some guys from, King's MMA, all the world-class gyms, and he's just not ready for that right now. So good victory for Rosas, but he needs to develop his striking. Because those next level contenders and fighters are coming, and he is going to need to prepare accordingly for them. So good win for him, but he will need to develop his striking. But he's got all the time in the world. So good win for him. Unfortunate for Morales now, lost back to back. But there's no moral victories in this game. But again, he did kind of silence the critics from an odds perspective of being underdogs, pretty heavy underdog in both of these last fights, but still showed that, hey, no, I can handle these guys. I can stand and bang with these guys. I can hang with these guys, right? And so the odds dictated that Rosas was going to run through him. He didn't. But who knows? Who knows what's next for Vince Morales? Rosas Jr., I think you still move him along as slow as possible, being as young as he is. So, and then we move on to, we had David Martinez versus Simon Oliveira. And this was interesting because this fight, I was actually about to tweet as the round was ending. Because it was kind of a slow round, right? I mean, both guys there was a lot of movement, and Martinez was trying to cut off Oliveira a lot. Oliveira was circling a lot, and he was attempting to throw some strikes. And Martinez threw a couple strikes here, but a couple combinations, two punch combinations, but not a whole lot was landing from both guys, right? A lot of moving around, a lot of circling. A lot of feeling out, and then at the 4-minute mark, man, Martinez just explodes, and does get that first round finish against Oliveira. Another nasty finish, quite a few finishes on this, and I loved the way that Martinez was able to finish Oliveira with that beautiful, he landed just a beautiful counter right, boom, and then just blitzes him, finishes him with a barrage of punches on the ground. Man, that was impressive. That counter, as I'm watching the clip here, it looks like, Oliveira went in for a left, and then as Martinez is backing up a little bit, just catches him with that counter right, boom, and it was all she wrote after that. And Martinez did the right thing. He just capitalized on that. He must have felt, oh yeah, boom, got him. That one's nasty. That one hurt him, and then just finishes him on the ground. And yeah, it just kind of came out of nowhere because again, I was tweeting as the round was ending. I was about to say, well, a tough round to score, but it looked like Martinez probably took that first round, and I was kind of waiting around for some action to happen, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, Martinez just exploded on him. So a great win for him. Again, it's Oliveira just kind of seemed to be overmatched from a speed perspective, from a striking perspective. Again, kind of one of those things where, and I'm not saying this either, but again, some of the other MMA pages kind of made it seem like, man, some of these fighters the matchups are being a little cherry picked to favor some of the the Mexican fighters. Maybe, sure. Does that happen? Yeah, it does. But not going to take anything away from Martinez. Because that counter was beautiful, beautiful. Again, Oliveira went in for that left, but Martinez saw it coming the whole way. Backed up, caught him. Barrage, boom, 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 finishes him on the ground. I'm not sure if he got, yeah, he did. He did get actually performance of the night. And those odds, minus 700 plus 500. So, what does that tell you, right? Was this matchup favorable for the home country guy? Yeah, it probably was a little bit. But you know what, though? The last few events, while they've had their moments, not a ton of finishes, not a ton of consistent action. But that's what I love about this card. Every so often, even if some of these matchups are stacked in the favor of one guy over another, and we see it throughout the card, the odds dictate it, you know what? That's okay. It makes for a fun night of fights, and it's been a while since we've had a card where it's just boom, finish after finish after finish after finish. And we as fans need that from time to time, right? So Martinez gets that great first round finish. Hats off to him. And he's on to bigger and better things and gets that performance of the night. And then we have the fight that opened up the card, which a lot of people were excited about. Ronaldo Lazy Boy Rodriguez against Kevin Borjas of Peru. Interesting, ironically, Lazy Boy is the nickname of Ronaldo Rodriguez, who, in fact, missed weight. And so Borjas took an additional 20% of his purse. Ironically, Lazy Boy missing weight, I thought was kind of funny. But Ronaldo Rodriguez has turned into a fan favorite, and definitely the Mexican fans love Ronaldo Rodriguez. The reception he got coming out. We had so many of the Mexican fighting celebrities there that have personally endorsed him. And so, he's gotten a lot of hype recently as a possible future, some have said even title contender. But, Kevin Borjas, man, he had something to say about that. This was a pretty clear victory for Borjas. I thought that the first round, and I tweeted this out as the fight opened up, that this is what I tweeted. I said that two-piece combo is absolute money in the bank for Kevin Borjas in round one, and it was. I can't count how many times he landed that pop, that two-piece combo, and to Rodriguez's credit, he ate it every time and survived a couple nasty knockdowns. And, Borjas was landing, and he was even styling him. He's like, come on, get up, let's go some more. And, Rodriguez was game. He was waving him on, come on, let's go, bring it on, bring it more. But, man, that first round, he was giving it to him. He was landing some nasty shots. That two-piece combo, again, was absolute money in the bank for him. But as the rounds progressed, you did kind of feel like Borjas kind of maybe overextended himself a little bit in that first round, because in the second round, he almost switched game plans. And I tweeted out that Rodriguez had a much better second round, and then he did some good work with the leg kicks. But Borjas, man, he showed that in that second round that his counters, beautiful. Rodriguez was much more aggressive in that second round, and I thought it was closer. I thought maybe you could have edged out a little bit and given Rodriguez that second round. So, just to keep things fun, I kind of scored it, 1-1. But, I thought that it was definitely more in favor of 2-0 for Borjas going into the third. But, you could have scored it. You could have scored it for Rodriguez that second round. I thought he did some pretty good work on the leg kicks and was much more aggressive, had him on the back foot more. But Borjas's counters, he was doing it all. First round, being aggressive, those two-shot combos, setting him down a couple times. And I'm not sure if he knocked him down again in that second round, but his counters were just beautiful. Rodriguez would blitz in and attempt to land something, and again, but the speed discrepancy. And not that Rodriguez is a slow striker at all, but you saw a noticeable difference in the quickness, the slickness, and the striking, and his counters were beautiful in that second round. And you could have easily scored that second round for Borjas. But just to keep things fun, I kind of scored it 1-1 going into the third round, because you did see Borjas kind of start to fade a little bit in that second round as he switched his game plan. But then in that third round, he was definitely much more aggressive. I think he kind of felt like, hey, look, I'm not going to lose this one. I'm going to put a cherry on this thing and go home with the victory. And he did get ultimately the unanimous decision on the judges' scorecards. And beating, and I believe he came into that fight as an underdog, slight underdog at plus 164. I thought maybe he should have got one of the performances of the night, if not the performance of the night. I know he didn't get the finish, but doing that to one of the hometown favorite guys in his hometown, that was pretty special. Great performance from Borjas. Slight upset. And we've seen fights where guys overextend themselves in the first round, knock guys down, but guys like Ronaldo Rodriguez, those guys that just seem to keep hanging around and find a way to get it done, right? But he didn't let him off the hook. He said, okay, you know what? I overextended myself a little bit, so second round I'm going to switch my game plan. I'm going to move, I'm going to keep circling, and I'm going to catch him with those counters. And then in the third round, he was definitely much more aggressive, and it was a closer round too, but again, those bigger moments, and I think he might have scored a knockdown in that third round as well. If memory serves. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But clear victory in my mind for Kevin Borjas. Big win of a big name in Ronaldo Lazy Boy Rodriguez. So I thought that was a fantastic performance. I thought the adjustments he made, and knowing that, okay, I overextended myself, so in the second round, I need to be more conscious of circling. I got to keep circling, limit damage, and stick with my counters. And he did it. He did it, man. And so hats off to him. Great win for him. A great way to open up the main card. What a fun fight, right? That 3-round fight went bell to bell. Love it. Love it. And I'm not going to get into all the fights on the prelims, but I did want to give a shout out to Jamal Emmers, pretty boy Jamal Emmers, in his victory over Gabriel Miranda. He did get that first round finish. He ended up, we gave him, at the end of all the fights, we gave him our this week's Pow Right in the Kisser Award. If any of you, I'm sure a lot of you know that reference. It's a Family Guy reference from one of the early seasons. And I always post the GIF right underneath it in case people don't get the reference. But he got the Pow Right in the Kisser Award for a really, really nice finish of Gabriel Miranda. And I'm looking at the finish right now, and he finished him with under a minute left. And another reason why I wanted to give him this award is because I remember a fight that he had quite a while ago now, but it was against Nate Landwehr, Nate the Train, and Jamal Emmers was giving it to him. I mean, he was just landing some heavy shots. He was landing pretty much wherever he wanted. Jamal Emmers is a fast striker. He's a slick striker. He was landing heavy, heavy shots on Nate Landwehr, and he had him hurt. He had him hurt and in some trouble early, but he overextended himself. He blew his gas tank early in hopes to finish Nate Landwehr, and it ended up costing him. Nate, I think, landed an uppercut in, I don't think it was the first round, it might have been the second round, but he came back in a big way. And you felt like Jamal Emmers let one get away from him because he overextended himself. He blew his gas tank. He was just trying too hard to finish him too quick, too early. But we saw a much more polished and improved Jamal Emmers in this fight because you could tell right away, similar to the Nate Landwehr fight, that there was that same speed discrepancy. Gabriel Miranda could not match him on the feet, striking skills or speed. And I thought, I'm concerned for Jamal Emmers that maybe he might make that same mistake in overextending himself. He's saying that, okay, you know what? I got there's a speed discrepancy in my favor. I'm going to put it on this guy and finish him early and just get him out of there in that first round, even though ultimately he did. But he definitely picked his shots more carefully. He was landing crisp. There were moments where he could have been following up and blitzing him, but then you also run that risk if the guy survives those barrages of strikes, where a guy like Gabriel Miranda, okay, does he take him down? Does he come back? Does he start to dictate the fight more on his terms now that he's tired? But no, we saw a much more polished and careful and measured Jamal Emmers. And he looked like, even after he finished him, he was ready. He could go another 3 rounds. So I was really impressed at those adjustments he made. Big difference in his approach from that Nate Landwehr fight that he just kind of let get away from him. He did not make that same mistake. He picked his shots carefully, even though he knew, he was like, hey, you know what? This guy can't keep up with me on the feet. I could pretty much get whatever I want right now. And it's tempting. It's tempting when you see that discrepancy to just unload on guys in hopes to get that early finish, but he didn't. He waited, he stayed measured, he was carefully hunting Gabriel Miranda down in that first round until he finally saw his moment, cracked him, and then finished him with that hammer fist, bop, bop, pow, right in the kisser. Jamal Pretty Boy Emmers gets our pow right in the kisser award for this week's UFC Mexico card. So congratulations to him. Very impressed with those adjustments he made. Guys, that's all for this show. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to me, and it doesn't cost you anything. I am going to try to be more consistent with the videos and the tweeting. This is not my 9 to 5, this is not this is not my day job, so to say. I do have a pretty demanding career outside of this. So this is more of a passion project for me. I love talking about fights. I love talking fights and breaking down fights and giving reactions, and this is just something I love to do. So I appreciate any of you that watch the video, take the time to like and comment. I'm not looking to get monetary gain from this. If that happens, great, but that's not what I'm aiming to do in this. This is just a passion project for me. And so I had a blast watching the fights, tweeting out. Thank you for those of you that have also followed the MMA After Dark X account. I appreciate that. We're getting some traction on there a little bit. Still working on gaining a little more traction on the YouTube channel, but I appreciate all of you that take the time to watch, like, comment, whatever it might be. And so I'm looking to continue to build on this, and I just want to thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you've had a great weekend. I hope you enjoyed the fights as much as I did. Again, please like and subscribe to MMA After Dark. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on next episode of MMA After Dark. Take care.